Hi there, how's it going? My name's Adam Horrigan. I'm working as a channel sales engineer. Great pleasure to be here at TCT, representing and talking with our partners, Additive-X. I just wanted to take a couple minutes to introduce you to the Fuse 1. It's been a long time in the making. We know there's been a lot of people inquiring about it, so happy to give you some information about what makes this product awesome. So, as some of you may know, the Fuse 1 here, sitting behind me, is our first desktop or benchtop SLS machine. So that stands for Selective Laser Sintering. It's taken us 6 years to bring it to market. We announced it originally a long time ago. Some of those processes and things we've honed are able to make us create this product that is really, really awesomely packaged, very, very easy to use, very, very simple to employ in your space without very little safety concern or educational concern. So just to take a quick look inside, I'll introduce you to some of the main features of the Fuse. First thing to talk about is this beautiful, lovely touchscreen. If anyone's dealt with the Formlabs product before, you will come to notice that we always keep our interfaces very easy to understand, very graphical, not too much in terms of text. First thing to look at is what we can see here on the left-hand side. So as you can see right now, we can see a live display of what's going on inside. We don't have a printing right now because we're in an exhibition space, obviously. What we would see here is we would actually see the laser moving over time. As we're moving down in the layer height of 110 right now, we would see the laser forming those parts. It's quite mystical, quite captivating to look at. You can even see this from Preform. So any existing Formlabs users will be very familiar with Preform. Preform is the free software you can download for your Formlabs product. You don't even need to own one. You can download it right now from formlabs.com. That enables you to view this. Preform is also your preparation software. So again, the philosophy is anyone can make anything at Formlabs or with Formlabs. So you don't have to take a long training course. You can just load in your STLs, stack up a build chamber, and you're ready to go. And you can view what's printing live in Preform. The machine itself can view that information, and if it notices a deviation between your file in Preform and what it's actually seeing, it will shut off and save you time, and it will report to you and us why the print failed, and we can give you the right information to not fail again. Just another little bits and pieces about the interface. If we tap over here to the printer icon, we can see, just like every other Formlabs product, we have a nice little name. The name is normally signified by an adjective and an animal. So we can see the name up here. We can see on this graphical display information about how much powder we have inserted. Do we have a build chamber or not? Most importantly, we can see a checklist, something that's really important with SLS. Naturally, we're printing at larger volumes, and there's some things that can go wrong when it comes to air filters and optics and things like this. The Fuse is trying to do all it can to make sure you are aware of what needs to be cleaned in order to maintain the product and have it firing on all cylinders. So when you look at each one of these maintenance steps, if we give a little tap, it will go through, and we can actually see graphically, even if we weren't speaking the right language, you can see graphically what you need to do in order to have that maintenance step fulfilled. Once you go through, it will tick that off, and then it will tell you and restart the clock again. Even if I went to print right now, even if I didn't know what to do, it would tell me here to clean the IR sensor, and I can tap again and do that process on the screen and know that I'm doing the right thing to prepare my build. Beautiful thing about the Fuse is actually many parts on the Fuse were printed on the Fuse. It's something that's super interesting for us as Formlabs employees and as a brand to be able to print parts of the machine that are fully in production on the machine, so we can really prove that it's a production machine. It's also a design-based machine, so it's just small enough that it can fit into your environment with relatively little preparation. So little bits and pieces about the actual parts printed. We just move this little guy back a little bit. We can see over here we have a IR sensor. So the top of the machine here is where we would load our credit in. So using NFC, we can load credit in remotely, so powder credit. And over here we have our IR sensor printed on the Fuse. This is responsible for telling the printer how hot the bed temp is, so we can sense the infrared inside. If we look at this, this is actually printed on a Fuse. Beautifully smooth parts, very different to most SLS. So we're able to get this kind of smooth surface finish by creating an armor around our parts so they cool down uniformly. Again, very different to most SLS where we get typical elephant skin or orange peel or birch bark, many different ways of saying a rough surface finish. As I mentioned before, we have this pattern pending armor that helps us create this beautiful finish on our Fuse parts. So this is nylon 12. As I mentioned, this is obviously very, very UV safe, so we don't have to worry about UV affecting these parts or causing warpage or creep over time. Something that I'm super excited about as a Formlabs employee. You can imagine many parts that we want to be able to produce and have in the hands of our customers without knowing that they're going to change over time. So that's really nice. When we look inside the fuse, it's quite disarming in the sense that everything is in its right place. We have one removable build chamber. When our job is finished, we only need to wait 90 minutes for the job to cool down, maximum 90 minutes, then we can pull this out. It's extremely safe because on the touchscreen itself, when we look under consumables, it will tell us the bed temp. So it tells us when it's safe to remove. We remove our build chamber. You can either put it to the side to cool down further or put it directly in the sift. And then we can place another build chamber in, ready for our next batch. As I mentioned, this is a design/production machine. So when you're in production, we want to be able to not waste time cooling stuff inside. We can have it outside and start another build. The technology itself is relatively easy in terms of there's not too many bells and whistles going on inside. We're using quartz tubes here to heat the top of the chamber. And that's where we have a thin layer of powder. And as I mentioned, we're moving down in layers of 110 right now, micron highs. Our lasers up the top, so we have customized galvos created by Formlabs. We're using a fiber optics laser, so no gases, no CO2. That means that the laser will last a lot longer than most typical SLS devices. Itself, we have this robust build chamber which has heaters inside and RTDs inside, so we can tell exactly what the heat is inside, so we get a more uniform bed temp and also a more uniform temperature within the chamber itself. The chamber then would go into the sift, and our sift is the partner in crime, we call it. Essentially, this is the device where we can recover our parts, so we can take them out of the bed, and we can also recycle that material. So none of our material never really needs to get thrown away, which is really, really nice thing for us to be able to say and hold our. It's really nice to be able to claim that you don't need to throw powder away. It's a nice closed loop. As I mentioned over here, we have our touch screen. So if I just open this up again, so you can see it's a live display. Beautiful live, very, very high detailed display that you can see, and you can access this information remotely. Or more importantly, your printer can tell this by a CV. It's an AI inside, so that it will recognize what is a tolerance, what's okay to stop, what needs to be stopped based on a print failure. If it recognizes that there is a deviation, so imagine things like contamination in the powder, it will stop. And as I mentioned, it will show you that information and show us that information so we can dissect exactly why something failed, and we can give you the right information to avoid that in the future. Other little bits and pieces that we can see, we can calibrate the machine in terms of moving the motors, in terms of setting the bed temp. But pretty much one of the great things is that you will never really need to touch any of this calibration piece when you want to take this machine out of the box and send a print. There is no pre-prep calibration. You'll just send a print directly from preform into the machine, and then you'll be able to run the print straight away. You can view that stuff and then take that data of what the print was, how much powder you used, how much powder you can recycle. You can gather all this information online via dashboard. You can even set up a prime, so prime printer here. We put in some powder, we put in our build chamber, make sure everything's clean and ready to go. I can then go home, make changes to my CAD file, and send that job remotely via dashboard to the printer, and it will start automatically. So that means that you don't necessarily need to be next to the printer. In these day and age, there are kind of a couple people in the office or sometimes working remote. It's really nice that you can just have one person there. You can make your changes and then send the job in the middle of the night if you need, and it will start printing automatically. So naturally, that's a bit about the printer, but I think the best thing to do is to look at parts and talk about parts, because that's what the greatest thing about 3D printing is, not the printer itself, but the parts it produces. And I'd love to bring Elaine over to chat to us a bit about some of her favorite parts. So Elaine, what is some of the parts that you like to look at the most and that you've enjoyed printing?
I mean, there's been so many amazing, great parts that you can do, like really intricate parts that you can do and achieve so much fine detail, movable parts. And as you can see, it's like these are like production ready like parts as well. Amazing surface finish once you have like combined all the other unfused powder out of it. It just looks amazing. And then you have options to obviously either like paint the parts afterwards, or perhaps These are vapor smooth afterwards with a company AMT, they're called, that we recently signed up with as an added option dependent on the desired surface finish that you require. So as you can see, this is just amazing what you can achieve as a product.
Yeah.
And then all the intricate like moving parts as well. So it's not just obviously engineering parts. It can go into like features, artistic side of things, movable. It's got great, yeah, they're just great strong parts.
Very lightweight.
Totally. So yeah, as in you can obviously put parts together afterwards. Another great example is the Johnny 5, where you can see all the screws together being put together there. So all the parts printed on the fuse, and then you can make them all as one larger functional part.
So parts can be machined together, parts can be joined together, glued together, parts can be vapor smoothed and dyed. Naturally, when we're dealing with nylon 12, it's a kind of a gray color. This is it out of the machine, so without any post-processing on it, it's literally brushed down and then media blasted using probably glass beads for this one. And then
the fine detail that you can achieve, just even like going all the way down to the finest detail of your product.
You can see these walls are about 0.4 mil in places, in areas, so you can do very, very fine details. We have a laser spot size of 200 microns inside the printer. So we
Such
can
a
get
robust material as well for usability, repeatability, product design, engineering, everything is all the options there for that
beautiful.
material. And
Are you ready to wear these glasses? Are you ready to go out in town?
Let's go.
Oh my gosh. So the other thing to mention is, naturally with nylon 12, we can easily sterilize it. We've got sterilization reports with gamma, E-beam, autoclave. We can get hundreds of cycles out of this. And more importantly, it's biocompatible. So this is what's great. Sometimes when we're dealing with other substances or liquids and things like this, you sometimes need to take a few additional post-processing steps. Naturally for us, we could either vapor smooth it if we want to give it to someone, but the material itself we've got a biocomp certification on the material. As I mentioned, you can sterilize the material as well. Autoclave will hold up very nicely without any cracks or deformations. So we're noticing quite a lot of people in the medical world paying a lot of interest into Fuse and generally our nylon 12. Very, very easy to work with, very robust material.
Yeah, and you can now use it as well for dental parts as well, dental models. It's been very popular for mold makings as well. So it's another application you can go into. You've got endless possibilities with this amazing Formlabs machine.
Exactly. So I think, if anything, we'd love you as people that are interested in the Fuse. Please do get in contact. Let us know if there's something we can print for you or something we can consult with you. Don't let us do the talking for you. Let us get you some parts in the hands so you can see just how special these parts are. As I mentioned before, it's not just about the technology, it's also about the parts and what they can unlock for you.
And you can do virtual calls as well, obviously with the Fuse and the SIF, talking you through the whole workflow as well of your parts and your binding. And we hope to see you soon.
So guys,